Okay, in this video, I'm going to matchmake every fighter on the main card of UFC 314 that took place last Saturday. The card was good. There's a lot of hype matchups that can be made. There's a lot of tricky fights to make for certain people. Like, it's hard to matchmake for them, but we'll get into it. So, we'll start with Volk. So, Volkanovski's coming off a win against Diego Lopez where he did an outstanding job. He's back. He's ready. He's wanting to stay active like he always does, I'm sure. And there's only one clear contender at featherweight, at least for me. We have Yair Rodriguez saying he wants the belt, like saying he wants a shot at the belt. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We have Gene Silva saying the same thing. That's also the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's only one clear-cut contender for Volk, and it's Movsar Evloev. He's earned it. Movsar's earned it. Sadly for the world and for the UFC, but Movsar has definitely earned the title. There's no one else that has the resume he does right now, even though he doesn't have a finish in the UFC, and all of his fights are super close and boring, and arguably he lost all of them. All of them he could have arguably lost, but he has a win over Diego Lopez, Arnold Allen, Aljamain Sterling, Dan Ige. He's just good. He's overall good, solid. He knows what he's doing. At least in the grappling, he knows how to win a close decision. So, this is the fight I want to see next, mainly because of merit. It's time to give Movsar a shot, and I want to see Volk beat the fuck out of Movsar. I want to see that happen and bring some more hype to Volk, because Volk is back, and he has a ton of hype behind his back now. I'm excited to see if he can go on another run, and I kind of want him to. So, let's give him this layup in Movsar Evloev next. So, Diego Lopez. He's the loser of the main event, but there's a super hype matchup that can be made with him due to the press conference and due to some beef that was apparently brewing behind the scenes that we did not know about until that very same press conference. This, of course, is Yair Rodriguez, who's also on this card, who won against Patricio Pitbull. Yair Rodriguez is quoted saying that he doesn't want this fight anymore. Too bad. This is the only fight you can take. Movsar's taken. Holloway's gone. Ilya's gone. Yair Rodriguez versus Diego Lopez is the only fight you can make, and it's the most hype, sick matchup you can make. There's actual beef. There's not many fights these days that have actual beef on the line. I love that. I like stakes when I watch a fight. That's the most important thing to any sporting event and to anything is stakes. And that's why I love the UFC so much, and there just hasn't been as much. It's why the title fight's the biggest fight. It's why Conor McGregor's fights are always the biggest, because he talks so much shit. It's why Ilya is now a star. There's actual stakes on this card, on this fight, because there's beef and there's bad blood. And I would think Diego Lopez would smoke him, but this is the best fight you can make. And if Yair Rodriguez wants to sit out for a title shot, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And he better hope Movsar wins, because that's the only way he can maybe get it. But he's not getting it. Volk already fucked him up. This is the only fight to make for Yair Rodriguez, and it's the most compelling matchup to make for Diego Lopez. So, I think it's perfect. Next. Who's next? Patricio, because we just did Yair. I'm just going to do Patricio next. He had a disappointing performance against Yair Rodriguez. I thought he did not great. He hung in there, but he didn't do good. But I don't think you give him someone super down the rankings. He's still a big name. You still want to use him. And in terms of scheduling wise, I think these two fighters this fighter that I'm about to say, I think they line up pretty good. I think that Patricio Pitbull versus Josh Emmett is the fight to make, clearly, because of scheduling mainly, and it would be a pretty sick fight to just watch. Josh Emmett needs an opponent now, so does Patricio Pitbull. You don't give Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's probably on his way out. He's probably got a couple more fights left in him. You could get a highlight reel KO, or you could build Patricio Pitbull's name back up. I don't think you want to waste Patricio Pitbull, and I don't think you want to waste the potential finish that Josh Emmett may have against an opponent. And you don't want to waste it against someone random. You'd want to waste it against Patricio Pitbull. So, I think this is perfect. And it works out ranking-wise. Josh Emmett just lost. He's down the rankings now. I think he's either below 10 or right on the cusp. So, I think this is perfect, kind of shooting him down. You can't give Patricio Pitbull Yair Rodriguez and then go outside of the rankings with him. It doesn't make any sense. I don't really understand why they gave him Yair Rodriguez in the first place. But now we know he's not top 5 caliber. Let's see if he's top 15 caliber against Josh Emmett. And Patricio probably wins, but he could get chinned. And that's that's what makes this matchup compelling. So yeah, next, Patty. Patty Pimblett destroyed Michael Chandler. Destroyed him. Made him look easy. Destroyed him. Nobody's ever really done that. It's very exciting to see what he'll do next. Since Poirier, but it's also stupidly hard to matchmake him, because lightweight is so weird right now. The top 5 of lightweight, the top 6 and 7 of lightweight as well, are impossible to matchmake correctly with the introduction of Ilya and now that Patty's here. And Dustin trying to look for a fight that's only a big name that works with scheduling. And they're trying to give Gaethje a number 1 contender, and they're trying to give Arman a number 1 contender, and they're trying to give Oliveira one, and Ilya is now there. It's just really hard to say what you do and who you give a title shot. I'd prefer if they just gave Ilya to Islam and did Arman versus Patty, or Oliveira versus Patty, Justin Gaethje versus Arman, Patty versus Oliveira. But I don't know if they're going to do Makhachev. Ilya is the thing. My guess is that they're going to do Ilya versus Oliveira. I think Gaethje's going to get Arman. I think Poirier's going to get Holloway. I think Dan Hooker's going to get left out in this mix. Sadly for him, it just doesn't fit for me. Or they could just give Patty Pimblett to Dan Hooker, which is a possibility, but I think the more compelling matchup is this. I think Patty Pimblett should fight the loser of Oliveira Topuria, which is almost announced. They got leaked and then decided it wasn't leaked. But I'm pretty sure that this is the fight they're going to make. And especially if it is, then he definitely gets the loser. If it's not, then you give him one of the two. I think that's what you do with Patty. He's a huge name. You want to shoot him up. I don't think you give him one above. I think everybody's kind of lost to Makhachev. I think we're in a rut. I think that Ilya and Patty are the two people you need to shoot up to the top of lightweight as fast as possible so we can have a cool fight for Islam. Ilya versus Patty is interesting. I would take Ilya definitely, but you have a clear-cut number 1 contender after that fight. Perfect. Oliveira beats Patty. Oliveira still has it. He has a win streak now. You can give him the title shot. It all works perfectly, I think, if you give him the loser of this fight. Which I do think this will be the fight, Ilya versus Oliveira, which I will take Ilya. So I'm guessing the next fight will be Oliveira versus Patty. I think you put Patty on ice for a little bit. You let this matchup take place, and then you evaluate from there. And then you give Gaethje to Arman, and then whoever wins that can maybe get a title shot. There's just so much blockage in the lightweight division. It's very hard to tell what to do. But I think this is super fun either way. I think it would be a sick matchup to watch either way. So I think this is the most hyped you could possibly be with Patty going forward. Next, Chandler. Chandler sucks. He lost, but he's number 12, I think, in the rankings right now. But you don't want to kick him out. I don't think you want to kick him out. Two people that are kind of fighting around the similar time. They both want to have they would have a sick fight. You still want to give Chandler a sick fight. You don't want to give him someone random or someone that's going to make it boring. Even though Chandler hasn't earned shit, I still think you have to give him a cool fight, a cool matchup. He's probably not going to be here for much longer anyway. This is similar in schedule. I think you give him Rafael Fiziev. Coming off of a loss to Justin Gaethje. He did the UFC a favor. I think you give him Michael Chandler to build his name back up. I think Fiziev beats him, but honestly, I don't know. Fiziev has a lack of power that's seeming to be a big detriment to his game. And Chandler obviously sucks ass. So, I think you do this. They're kind of the similar build. They're both strikers. It's going to be fun. That's the most important part about this, is that it's going to be fun. And it makes sense for both of them, rankings-wise, at least a bit. I don't think you go outside the rankings for Chandler. I don't think you do that. And Fiziev, he gave the UFC what they wanted. He saved a card. I think this is Fiziev's best opportunity to get his name back in the mix. and get his hype back because he doesn't have any of it right now after the ACL tear against Gamrot, and now he got beat the fuck up by Gaethje. This will reignite the flame of Rafael Fiziev because I think he'll win. But if he doesn't win, then we can get Chandler to fight and win again, and then ooh, that's cool too. So I think this is just a cool matchup to watch and make sense ranking wise. So yeah, next, Gene Silva. So he wants a title shot, which is the stupidest thing ever because he just beat number 13 Bryce Mitchell, who is out of the rankings now. Bryce Mitchell, they kicked Bryce Mitchell out of the rankings, and they still have Calvin Kattar and a bunch of other people. I don't know about that. I don't know if I like it. It makes some sense, but still, it's kind of weird. But Gene Silva, he beat the fuck out of Bryce Mitchell, dropped him, and submitted him. That's impressive. No matter how you look at it, submitting Bryce Mitchell is impressive. You want to fast track Gene Silva to the top. I do think that. I really do. And I do think there's a Lerone Murphy up there. But I don't know. I just don't think that would be fun. I want something fun or intriguing. I want to see Gene Silva test the chin of Brian Ortega. That's what I want to see. I know Brian Ortega's shit and he's washed and he's bad and he doesn't really deserve any fight ever. But shooting Brian Ortega this far down the rankings is what Brian Ortega deserves. And Silva honestly deserves a shot up. He doesn't deserve a title shot. He doesn't deserve anything like that. He does deserve this. He deserves Brian Ortega at number 3 or 4, I'm pretty sure, to test the chin of Brian Ortega. If he can knock out Ortega or submit Ortega, if he can finish Ortega, huge. That is super impressive. Something that's, I don't know if it's never been done, but it hasn't been done in a fucking long time. Finishing Brian Ortega is extremely difficult. He has great jiu-jitsu. He has a really good chin. He doesn't have good striking, but he has a good chin and great jiu-jitsu. If Gene Silva can put a stop to him, and he probably would, and it'd probably be flashy, and he'd probably toy with him the whole time, that is big. And if Brian Ortega submits him, then all the hype is gone. This is a make-or-break matchup for Silva. And I think it works perfectly. And I kind of think you want to fast-track Silva up to featherweight. If I'm thinking from the UFC's point of view, I think you want to fast-track the fun guy up the rankings. I don't think you want to risk losing Gene Silva for Lerone Murphy. I don't think you want to risk it. I think you give Lerone Murphy a loser of Yair Diego, or give him Yair if Yair's being a bitch. But this is extremely fun, and I think it's what both of them deserve. I think Gene Silva can finish him, and I think he probably will. And featherweight is at a weird spot where there's not a whole lot of contenders that are good, and especially that Volk's back. We have a lot of contenders that he's already beat. I think putting Gene Silva in a position for a title shot is a great idea because that's huge. No matter what, Gene Silva's fights are going to be huge. Him in a title fight against Volk, the biggest fight you can make. So that's what I think. Next, Bryce Mitchell. So Bryce Mitchell. I thought he was going to be still in the rankings, but since he's not, I think you do one more fight for this fighter, and then you put this fighter in the rankings. This builds his name up to a degree if he beats Bryce Mitchell. He's a super fun fighter all around. I think they're on similar schedules as far as I'm concerned. Chepe Mariscal. They are on similar schedules. Chepe fought like 2 months ago or some shit. Chepe's right outside the rankings. He's super fun. He's super active. He throws everything he has into a fight. He's a fucking brawler. I do think you give Bryce Mitchell someone interesting to fight, and I think Chepe's that guy. I think Chepe deserves it. I think there's others like a Nathaniel Wood, like a Pat Sabatini, that you could give Bryce Mitchell, but Nathaniel Wood might get a ranked contender. So might Pat Sabatini. I think Chepe's right outside that. And I think beating Bryce Mitchell gives him that jump in name value in that conversation to put him up. Also, I think Chepe's worth investing in. He's extremely fun to watch. And I think he could probably beat Bryce Mitchell. to be honest. He's very good, and he likes to brawl, and he's good at grappling, and I don't see Bryce Mitchell taking down that little tank freaky in Chepe Mariscal. So, I'm going to go with Chepe to win if they do fight. But that's what I think they should do with Bryce. Next, Dominic Reyes. He just won against Nikita Krylov, slept him out bad. Super impressive. Not expected at all from me. I think you give him to Alexander Rakic up the rankings. You don't really have a fight for Rakic lined up right now. I think that you give him to Dominic. Dominic's knocked him out in like 2 seconds. I think you can do this quick. I think Rakic is probably looking for a fight soon. Jan Blachowicz and Dominic Reyes wouldn't be on the same schedule, and they've already fought before. I don't like it as much, to be honest, for either fighter. I think this is the fight to make. If Dominic Reyes can finish Rakic, extremely impressive. Rakic is really hard to finish. And Rakic has just put a stop to Dominic Reyes' hype, going back up the rankings. But I think this works perfect. You give him to Rakic, and then the winner can fight a loser of Jamal Hill, Roundtree, or maybe a loser of Yuri versus Olberg. I think this is sick. I think it's the only fight to make, really, for Dominic Reyes going up the rankings for him. Sadly, since Rakic is such a tricky fight, I'd probably go with Rakic, to be honest, just because it's hard to finish him. But if Dominic Reyes wins, I mean, he's been surprising me recently, so he probably could. But I'd go with Rakic. But yeah, next, finally, Nikita Krylov just lost by knockout. He's been out. He was out for 3 years before that, and then now he's been knocked out. That sucks. That really sucks for him. I think you give him the winner of this matchup happening in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks. Anthony Smith versus Ming Yang Zhang. So they're fighting. They're at the very bottom of the rankings. And by winner, I mean Ming Yang Zhang is going to fucking destroy Anthony Smith, and then Ming Yang Zhang is going to fight Nikita Krylov. If by some miracle Anthony Smith wins, then you could do that, and that's still fun. Because Anthony will be looking up the rankings from there. Nikita just got beat. He's going to be low. I think you give him a warm-up in Anthony if he wins. Or you put him in deep waters with Ming Yang Zhang, but at the very bottom of the rankings. It would give a ton of hype to Ming Yang if he would win against Krylov. If he wins against Krylov in similar fashion to Dominic, that's big, no matter how you look at it. And we want Ming Yang Zhang up in the top of the rankings. At least I do. I think he's super fun. I like knockout artists, and I like Asians. So that's perfect. All the Asians love to brawl, is what I've noticed. So, yeah, I'm generalizing, but it's true. They're awesome. Ming Yang Zhang is going to win against Anthony Smith, and I think he's the most compelling matchup for Nikita Krylov in their next fight. So, that's it. Those are all of the matchups that I think should happen. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree. I'll see you soon.